Akira.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Welcome, everybody, to the debut edition of Around the UFL. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we got a packed show for us today. And you might be looking, if this is the first time you're hearing this show, you got to say, man, this is a packed crowd. It's an all-star panel, pro football news coming full force. Real quick, we're going to do real quick introductions. But as you know, we got the UFL Super Draft. We're going to be jumping into that. We're going to be looking at the picks. We're going to be giving analysis. And hey, you know what? If time allows, we might even be looking at the UFL contract details that the USFL put out earlier today. as well. I mean, we didn't even plan on it being such a big day for such a big show, but here we are. To my right, familiar face, my man, Zach Kyleman. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful because we get to do this first episode of a groundbreaking moment, I think, in PFN's digital era, as well as what we're building with our UFL presence. But let you keep going, man. We got so many other people to get to. I don't want to take too much time, but yeah, love to be here.
Sign you up. Thanks for joining. Right to his right, PFN insider James the Man Larson. How about you? How are you feeling today, my friend?
Doing well. It's been a chaotic day. Obviously, a lot of news in the spring football scene, but happy to be here and excited to get this show off the road.
Perfect. And you know we couldn't have a round table without the community legend, Quack Quack Ducky. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Living the dream. Am I awake? I know. I pinched myself. I felt it. I'm good. Stallions fans, rejoice. You got a voice at the table. Luke Miller, giddy up. How's it going, my friend?
Right. I'm just giddy to be here.
Yeah, I like to hear it. Jake Ball, my man, Panther Shadow, thanks for putting in the tag because we know we would have got it wrong. Panther Nation, let's hunt. How you doing?
Feeling pretty good. Today was a good day. I like what we got, so excited to talk about it.
That's what I like to hear. And a new face to probably most of you, but a face that I guarantee you will remember. Mel's, we got a girl. Holy smokes, what is going on here, Mel's? How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to talk football with all y'all.
That's what I like to hear. And I mean, this is just a case of why I love what we do at PFN, the UFL podcast, Around the UFL now, just all of the things involved, because Mel's, it was a little over a year ago when we first met at the Motor City meetup, and here we are. Now you're part of the newsroom crew. You're on the show. I'm loving to see it. Now, real quick, I do want to, I know I put some show notes in there. What is that face for, Ducky? I don't know what's going on over there.
I'm hearing a cat.
Oh, okay. Cat it up. Sign you up. So, you know me, I'm a no curtains kind of guy, right? And so I put in the show notes, at least the ideas section, that I'd love to integrate points into the show. Now, we can figure out what they do and how they acquire and all those things. But I could see it being like, okay, let's say you have 5 points. And you know what, Luke, nothing against you, but let's just say the Stallions had one hell of a week. We can't get you to shut up. Well, maybe I could spend 5 of my points to mute Luke for a minute during one of his tirades so I can break free and tell you why it's really the Houston Roughnecks that are the best team in the league. Now, adversely, you could do the same to me. Maybe you could use your points to highlight your video on the screen. Here's what I need, chat. I love stealing your ideas. Give me your best ideas. We're going to use those. But I do want to get just initial thoughts on the draft, and we have a lot of folks here. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you a trivia question. First to answer gets to give their analysis first, okay? Everybody be ready. This one's a tricky one. Who has the shortest drought in NFL playoff history right now as it stands? Nobody's going to
It's got to be Detroit, I think, based on your answer.
Winner, chicken dinner. The Detroit Lions are the last team to win an NFL playoff game. Sign them up, folks. Zach, how you feeling about the Super Draft? And you know what? 1 point for Zach. 1 point for Zach. All right, guys, 1 point.
Man.
Now, how you feeling on the Super Draft?
I'm doing, to get myself back in order after trying to focus on your Lions victory. No, dude, I know we'd been waiting to see the dispersal. Overall, I'm very pleased with seeing where teams picked up what talent. I'm loving the roster construction of all 8 so far. And it's at this point, if we're having to nitpick who is better just because we have to find slight intricacies on what rosters are missing, it's kind of hard to do so now because there already was so much available talent in the pools anyway. No, I was very well pleased at what's available, and I liked some of the strategies teams took. Not everyone drafted every round. Some of them only wanted a few pieces to pick up, and maybe they're waiting or they filled up earlier in phase one. But overall, great draft. No matter what, there are going to be people that were most likely left out, or you're going to have your top, misses, which we'll probably talk about during this show. But no, overall, these 8 rosters, they're going to have some great competition, and these are indeed feeling like best of the best, pushing like our all-star types of builds that we all want to see.
Right on. That's what I love to hear. James, I mean, you know what? Heck, I'm going to give you a point too for reporting on the UFL dispersal draft in the snow. 1 point for Zach, 1 point for James. And while we're at it, give us your take, man. What are your thoughts on the Super Draft? I mean, what a flipping cool name, by the way. Super Draft. This ain't no regular draft.
I think it was a fitting name because, for the first time we had 2 spring leagues coming together in a combined draft. Very unique, right? We saw XFL players going to the USFL side. We saw USFL players going to the XFL side. It's especially why I love that they did it the way that they did with the dispersal draft back on the 5th, because all the XFL teams got to keep the XFL names that they really wanted in their conference, and same goes for the USFL side. But now we've got some intermixing there between the leagues. Overall, something that shocked me a little bit was a couple of these teams that didn't really pick up many players at all. The Arlington Renegades only snagged several guys. They've got a bunch of openings left. Then on the other side, you have the Memphis Showboats, who basically carried this draft on their own. I mean, they were just going pick after pick after pick when everybody else had stopped. So I think it was a really unique thing to watch how each team had a different strategy, and each team knows that there's going to be a lot of free agents available coming out of these NFL practice squads, guys that haven't signed futures contracts, or guys that went to the NFL from these past USFL and XFL seasons. So it's going to be interesting to watch all this unfold as free agency is currently slated to reopen tomorrow.
I'll tell you what, man, they threw me for a loop because I was sitting here updating the PFN draft tracker, and here I am waiting for Arlington to make a pick. I'm like, geez, what is going on? I go look in the Discord, and it's like, oh, we're already done with the next round. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm so behind. And here I am just waiting for Arlington. Then I knew. Okay, yeah. And it makes sense because they could pick up to a certain amount of players, but they didn't have to. And kind of what you alluded to, it sounds like there's probably some players that are kind of at the ready or will soon be ready to jump on board that they've probably had discussions with, whether they had been on the team, went to the NFL, or somebody else in the around that may have not been part of that draft pool. Ducky, I don't know if the tweet went live yet. I don't know. But as of right now, you don't have a team. So I don't know if you want to give your takes on the draft. Was there anything in there that maybe swayed you to one team or another possibly?
There was definitely one last draft pick that swayed me, and that was Boogie going to DC.
Yeah.
So I think that settles it for me.
Well, there you have it, folks. The number one DC Defenders fan and community legend, Ducky. The pick is here. The pick is live. I mean, I'm a little sad. I'm not going to lie. I was hoping you would be roughing them up with me. You're going to be a little sad, too. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only win so many games. And when you're up against the Roughnecks, it ain't going to be a lot of them. I'll tell you that much. Well, at least the ones that you play against us. I won't speak for the rest of them. But I do envy you because the beer snake, the lemons seem very ducky-ish.
It's a lemon party.
And maybe we could swap the lemons with rubber duckies. Maybe that's a UFL season 1 exclusive. We'll find out. We'll see. I joked, Luke, as you joined the call, you looked very sad, disappointed, beaten up, broken down, if you will. And I'm curious, how are you feeling on the Stallions draft? Are you not as excited as it should be? What's going on here?
I would say I feel good about the Stallions draft. It's tough when you're the best and there's small margin for improvement. So this draft didn't mean as much to us as it did to 7 other teams. But in all seriousness, I am a little sad because right before coming into this, I've just been DMing with several different players who shockingly didn't get picked up at any point in this process. And I think we all knew that was coming, like you're going from 16 teams to 8, right? We knew a lot of guys were going to lose out and not have a job at this point in the process. But I think it's one thing to kind of think about that in theory. It's another thing to actually see guys that you've been talking to for weeks and months, looking forward to the next opportunity, and that reality kind of come crashing down that, they don't know if they're going to get to play this season. And so excited about the Stallions, excited about the roster we've got. But I think the reality of that is definitely kind of hitting home today, especially with how some of the teams approached the draft and just how things shook out. There's a lot of guys that are still available that I wouldn't have guessed in a million years would be. So it's a bittersweet day in ways.
Right. I will say there was a lot of discussion going into today on if we would or would not see Bo Scarborough get picked up, and he did. I mean, I don't know. I'm actually surprised that surprised a lot, but I'm glad to see him back on the team. I'm assuming you are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Bo, he's one of those guys that, obviously he's an incredible football player, has had an incredible career. If he retired tomorrow, he would get a lot of praise and respect from people from all different levels of football. But he means a lot to us beyond just what he does on the field, as much as he can do on the field. So I think to have a guy like that back, what he means to the team and the culture, the leadership that he provides in the locker room. I mean, one of the reasons the Stallions have been so successful is the culture they've built, and keeping guys like Bo is a huge part of that. So I know, and also just honestly, for no other reason other than marketing, we needed him. So I know there was a collective sigh of relief across the state of Alabama when they saw he was going to be on the Stallions again, and people didn't have to worry about the thought of him playing for Memphis or something like that. So definitely a win for us.
Right on. Jake, big Panthers fan. I don't know what we did to this show, but somehow we stacked this show with Panthers fans. So we'll go back to back on this one. Thoughts on the Panthers draft? Good, bad, in between?
A little surprising. Thought we'd pick a little more than just 6 picks. Only 2 new faces, 4, guys that we've had on the roster for at least since May, with Abajay being like the latest signing there. So yeah, a little surprising that we only went with 6. Thought that we would get closer to the 75, leave a couple spaces open for Perry and get signed back in free agency, but thought we'd fill out the roster. But maybe Nolan and staff like what they have and don't need a whole lot of additional competition. Just go with what they have. And I'm okay with that. I'm good with it. I'm glad that we have Murphy back. Glad that we have Kramer. Obviously, now we got some competition in the special teams, and I like where we're at. So I'm surprised, but not disappointed.
Good.
Not overjoyed. Not super happy. Oh my god, we got a steal. But I like Brooks, like Adams. Not gonna complain. Get some additional depth in that secondary, and
right on. Live to see another day. Mel's new face on the table. Sorry, you're the last one up. It just, that's how the roulette. We'll get you up first next time. But I'm curious. I mean, you were there front row, center field for every home game for the Panthers last season. You're ready to rock and roll. There were some great moments. There was some, mainly heartbreaking moments at Ford Field. How are you feeling about this draft? Do you think we're going to see a better, more gelled team, or are we going to see more of the same?
I mean, I think overall, I was also a little surprised with the draft because it seems like there wasn't a lot of new faces, a lot of new pickups. It was a lot of the same. So something maybe Mike Nolan really liked what he had and feels like maybe if he just plugs a couple holes, it makes a more well-rounded, better team. I do have to say, there was a number of secondary pickups that I was really excited for. Being a big fan of the secondary, I think Gibson, that was a huge one that I was really excited for. I don't know what Taylor's going to do in his corner spot. He's going to have a little bit of competition there at this point, with some of the guys that we picked up. I think really leaving the spots open like they did with having, only a few picks today. I'm hoping for another, like Jake said, another Ginda pickup, a Perry, some of these other big names that we had last year that maybe went on to the NFL for, practice squads or any other contracts that are left to be taken. I think we had a really good defense last year. I think there was just, a little bit here and there that just needed to be filled up, and so overall, I mean, I'm good with it. I like it. I'm a fan. I'm really excited to see who they end up picking for that secondary because they have a lot of depth there, and I think it's gonna be wild to watch. It's gonna be fun to see.
Good. And by the way, Mel's, you earned your first point, your first segment on the channel. Point it up, sign you up. We'll figure out what to do with these points sooner or later. But trust me, I'm marking them down.
I didn't get a point.
Okay, you get a point for announcing. You get a point for
Okay.
announcing your team.
2 points.
You know what? I'll give you 2 points. You know
Three,
what?
'cause I give
This
myself
show's
points.
point system's like a democracy. We got to keep checks and balances here. So
All right,
clearly,
Ducky 2 points. Mel's, Zach, and James, you have 1.
I
But
still have
here's
2 points for being a fan of the 2-time defending champions.
well, we should take some points away from you. It's almost like a handicap at this point. But you know what? Maybe I will. All right, negative point for Luke.
Hey, man, the
2
league
points.
already hit us with that handicap, making us pick last in every round of every draft known to man. And so
Touche,
might as well
you know?
just hit me too. We'll still three-peat. It doesn't matter.
We'll get there. Now, I'll tell you this. I will say, my favorite pick of the day. My favorite pick of the day. Of course, it would come from the Houston Roughnecks, who are going to rough them up. But to me, it fixed something that we sorely needed to fix last year, and by one of the best in the business. And of course, I'm talking about kicking Luis flippin' Aguilar to the Roughnecks. And I mean, this is not to discount anybody else that we signed, but when that one came through, I got hype. I marked out. I was ready to go. Sign me up. No more are we going to lose out on those 3 points. If you look back last season, we won more games than we did season 1, sure. But there was a few games where had we made the field goals, and Zach, in that Panthers game, that could have been one of them. I could have been eating free barbecue, not you. And hopefully this year,
Never gonna
thanks to
happen.
Luis Barbecue,
now you and I get to-
Luis Aguilar, my face is going to be covered with sticky sauce. Oh, sticky. All right, somebody take
Clip
over
it.
for me.
Clip it.
You're done. You're cut off.
Somebody clip it.
bruh.
Okay.
Damn,
Welcome
man.
to Around the UFL. And you know what? I get a point for that. Because that's going to be on the internet forever.
That's got to be negative points. That's got to be like negative 69 points.
Give me the damn mic here. Look, Luis Aguilar definitely for you for the Houston Roughnecks. That was one of my favorite picks of the day. Solves a problem that they need. I'm a big guy, as we've been on these roundtables, about filling a need. That's what the drafts are for. You fill a need that's been missing, I give you a big gold star like we're in elementary school. That one's one that they definitely needed, sorely picked up. And it's a player that deserved to be so. When you set records, when you're one of the consistents in a USFL that was very top-heavy on quality kickers, that's a guy that's got to get retained if he's not in the NFL. So I do agree. Really good pickup here. Another guy that I think, did similar in terms of reaction to like a Case Cookus in the phase 1 of the draft is Quentin Dormady. I was wondering if he would go quick. He went immediately, and it's the one need piece for the Brahmas that I went, yes, you filled a need. I saw a few Brahmas fans go, well, maybe we can roll with Jack Cohn. I got to be honest with you, I had no faith in Jack Cohn if you wanted to run a high-powered offense next year. I know A.J. Smith is a quality offensive coordinator and can get the best out of a player. I just don't buy into Cohn being that guy you roll with. Dormady showed it on the Guardians last season after going through some of those awkward moments, being distracted by legal reasons, if I were to put it lightly. He showed he's an explosive character. He helped elevate the Guardians' offense twofold when he stepped in. I can only imagine what AJ will be doing with a guy of his stature. It's a great pickup.
You make a great point there, Zach. And the guy that I really want to highlight, too, is Jalen McClendon, who got picked up by DC. With Quentin ending up in San Antonio, then everyone was like, all right, where is McClendon going to go? And he ends up in DC, which is the perfect fit for him. You look at the offense that Reggie Barlow likes to run. You look at what DC did all of 2023, just running the ball, just utilizing Jordan Tomlin, utilizing Abram Smith. Now you have a guy like Jalen McClendon who can fill that hole because it doesn't seem like De'Ara King is coming back. Jordan Tamu's up in the air. We still don't have full confirmation on that. And McClendon, man, I mean, he looked fantastic those final few weeks when he finally got the chance to start. Luis Perez gets traded to Arlington. Brett Hundley takes a step back and kind of goes on the bench. And Rod Woodson gave gave Jalen a chance, and I think he really made the most of it, and I think it's why we saw him go so early in this Super Draft today.
Mel's favorite pick in the draft, or you know what, and maybe even elaborate who won the draft. And you can do the homer pick. You could pick the Panthers. I'll let it.
Let's see.
You might lose a point if you do, though.
Pick of the draft. I mean, I'm really tempted to say Cole Murphy because I think anyone who knows me knows I love Cole Murphy. But I don't know. I really like Boogie going to DC. I really like that pick. You know, I love the Maulers defense. They definitely had the best defense in the USFL last year. So it's really nice to see that some of these guys that were on teams that didn't make it, that just had incredible talent, still get picked up and go to other teams. I mean, overall, like, you look at that Showboats roster, and I'm not sure how excited I'm going to be the day that the Panthers play the Showboats. You know, like, if the rosters stand as they were today. I think they did a very good job in the dispersal draft, and I think they've done a really good job in pickups. And then in the Super Draft today, you know, they have a beast of a team, and they'll definitely, I think, be a dominating force, you know, in the season this year.
Yeah, the Showboats are looking scary. If I was to say I think the Showboats won the first two phases, and to me, it's a toss between the Showboats or DC on this final phase. I think they're all looking. I think they all made the right picks on the players that they needed. We like I said, we spoke about it earlier. The Renegades kind of stopped picking early. The Panthers. So there's still some openings on these rosters. Jake, real quick too, because I realized you are owed a point as well for creating the Around the UFL logo. I mean, that's got to deserve at least a point. But since I got you, favorite pick, who won the draft? What are your thoughts here? You going with the homer pick, or are you going to come to reality and pick the Roughnecks? That's what I got to know. Even though I didn't pick them, but you should.
I'm not going Panthers. No, I think we did a much better job with the first dispersal draft. Picking up the off the carcass of the dead USFL teams. But honestly, I'd have to go back through. I've not paid a whole lot of attention just to anybody else other than the Panthers, because I am not James. I am not putting in that work. I really don't give a damn about what another team is doing. I care about my team only. But no, I mean, I like the Willie Henry pick. I'll go with that. I'll go the Willie Henry pick to the Showboats. Go homer pick. National champion. So that'll be my favorite pick. So let's say Showboats won it.
Sign you
let
up
them
and
win the day.
And
Same
Luke, you know
colors,
what?
too.
Wait, say that one more time.
The blue and gold too.
Oh, right.
Not quite the maize and blue, but
yeah.
same
Championship
colors
for sure.
Hail the victors, baby.
As we know, champions in our own right. We're
As we know.
basically members of the team at this point. I want to know where my ring is. So, hopefully soon. Now, Luke, your answer may earn you a point. We'll see. Who won the draft? Favorite pick as well.
Okay, I'm going to give you a favorite pick, who won the draft, and who lost the draft.
Okay,
right?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too.
Here we
All right.
go.
Favorite pick is Ryan Langan, long snapper for the Stallions. Didn't protect him, but he was an all USFL long snapper last year. We were able to grab him in the 5th round and, kind of played Russian roulette with possibly losing him to another team, but we're able to bring him back and got him and Colby Wadman plus Chris Blewett, which is going to be a stacked special teams unit. So that's my favorite pick. The team that won, I need to – this is just initial impression. I haven't, gone back through and sort of processed everybody's picks. But I was impressed with DC. I like the McClendon pick, as James talked about. I think adding TJ Barnes and Boogie Roberts to your defensive interior on the line is pretty nice. They added a couple good offensive linemen. I like CJ Johnson, will be a rookie wide receiver out of ECU a lot. They added Tybus Taylor, who's a running back who's been successful at Arena and other levels of football he's played. They picked up one or two of their guys that they had to let go from the unprotected phase, a few of their other rookie guys. So I thought overall, that's obviously a very strong team. They had an incredible roster last year. They don't really show any signs of slowing down. So I thought they had a great day. team that lost, this is my hot take. I'm actually going to say the Memphis Showboats. And
I'm very curious about this one.
Okay.
the reason I'm saying that, no, hear me out. The reason I'm saying that is not because of the players they added, because I will be the first to say that they added some really fantastic players in both phase 1 and phase 2 of the draft. The reason I say that is they are now the only team, I think, I could be wrong, James, you can probably correct me, but I think they are the only team of the 8 who have a full roster. They cannot add any more players. Now, in theory, could they cut some guys if some other guys came available in the month between now and camp? Sure, but if you're an NFL free agent who gets cut from their team or gets cut from a practice squad, doesn't get a futures deal, and you're looking for an opportunity, why are you going to reach out to a team that has a 75-player roster, a full roster, right? Why wouldn't you first reach out to or get in touch with some of these other teams that have open spots, like the majority of other teams? Like Jake mentioned the Panthers, right? They only added 6 today, but that leaves them a lot of wiggle room to pick up maybe some guys that become available. So I like that the Showboats added the players they did. However, if you're just going to reassemble the 2023 Breakers who got destroyed by the Stallions in the playoffs, you're going to fill your roster without any ability to improve it once the NFL season is over and more guys become free agents. I don't know how you expect to win the championship in 2024.
Go on.
I say, I don't know, Luke. They did add a few of your championship caliber Stallions onto that roster too. Willie Henry and Christian McFarland aren't slouches, my guy.
They did. That was the best thing they did, I will say. But I don't know if 3 Stallions can make up for 30 Breakers or whatever.
Well, I have something to add to that, Luke, and you're not going to like me for this, what I'm about to say. But they did add Case Cookus, who would have beat the Birmingham Stallions.
Would have, could have, should have.
The hot take.
If he didn't break his leg.
All right, James.
I gotta say it.
Stronger legs.
Luke's about to block me on every platform now.
I'm living in reality, James. If you want to live in fantasy land, that's fine. You can.
Hey, I'm living in Switzerland. Is what I do.
So I'm going to give you the point. Actually, I was going to give you the point if you went full homer, but I'm actually going to give you the point for not giving the Stallions the best draft. So, Ducky, you're still ahead of everybody by 1, but you know what? I have a feeling we can catch up when points are flying fast and furious like they are today. We will see. I don't know. Let's just go around the table. Is there any topics that anybody specifically wants to talk about in the draft? I mean, we got 7 folks here. I might just be the loudest. Zach, my friend, go ahead.
I do, because I want to continue that discussion on leaving roster spots open, because I think Luke opens a great point for that. Because, yes, Memphis does have it capped off. I do want to say some of the roster constructions I am now seeing post-Super Draft, I'm very much asking, who is that guy that is going to fill certain needs? Specifically, 2 teams don't even have field goal kickers to mention as well. And I know that's a very open commodity. There's a lot of options, but there's some good kickers on this market. And a few of them, like, for example, our own Panthers, for many of us in here that are of Michigan, picked up and did competition for both punting and kicking along that way as well. Even the Showboats now have a competition with 2 USFL kickers that I thought they didn't need to address that position by picking up Matthew Coughlin, but they did anyway. So now you're going to see possibly Alex Kessman be available on the open market. So I am very fascinated to see how this works, not only for the sake of maybe you're waiting on free agents. Are some of these positions being left open for guys that get cut and move around? Like, is this like a value thing that you're dealing with too? Drafts, it's a lot of times about how much value you get at a certain specific point along your draft order. This one's a little different, of course, with how many you can take, but I do find it fascinating. Like I said, special teams were being a little more open on some regard. Also, side note, in terms of people and needs that I'm looking at and seeing, I'm going to take a shot at the ref here. Why is the quarterback position you guys still keep neglecting? I don't understand. I am not sold on Kenji Bahar, and yet they did nothing to address that spot for competition. You have a brilliant roster, but you left the same people at the top. You got to change that. Get another guy. I'm assuming that is what you got to address in the free agent market. Because I don't fully buy in.
Garantano. So that's someone they signed and protected who can provide some competition.
Some.
Superstar Bahar. You heard it here first, folks. It's going down. You know what? People doubted him in year 1. Okay, I get it. People doubted him in year 2. Here we are. Third time's the charm, baby.
I was waiting for you to say, okay, I get it, because I'm still not sold.
I'm telling you, by air or by ground, Bahar is going to get it done. Open your eyes, close your eyes, it won't matter because those points are going to be being put on the board. In fact, you know what, Zach? We don't even need a quarterback. I don't want a quarterback. Take no quarterbacks in the game. We don't need it. We're going to win. We're going to win. Especially with Luis Aguilar on the team.
Guys like Mike Nolan will love you guys because it makes you one-dimensional. Stop one dimension. Let's make it fun for the other side of the
No
ball. That's what it
dimensions.
is. No dimension. 4D chess. I see what you're doing. Okay. That's fine.
No, but I do think that they are waiting. I think that's the case for a few of these teams that have these open roster spots. There's probably somebody that they have in mind or somebody that they've had discussions with already, and they might not be in this initial pool, right? And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of these, maybe not a lot, but a good amount of the signings that we see going forward are going to be people that are outside of this pool, weren't in it for one reason or another, like James mentioned earlier. Maybe they signed an NFL contract in the off or whatever may happen. So I fully expect them to see. I mean, they have to bring another quarterback on because they have a 3-quarterback rule in the league. So who is it going to be? Am I going to be sad if Kenji Bahar's starting? No, I'll be fine because we're going to win 12-0. Rough them up, just in case you didn't hear. But we'll see who the magic man is because I'll take it whoever because – I mean, this should be a real thing. If you're a quarterback, you should be drooling to sign that Roughnecks contract because it's a guaranteed championship ring at the end of the season. 12-0, rough them up.
Funny enough, the Battlehawks to me also fit the description where I think you were Roughnecks, where I'm like, no offense, it's a team I imagine is waiting, like James is talking most likely in the free agent market, but I definitely have to assume you're going into training camp and you better be signing someone because I would not feel as confident as a Battlehawks fan seeing Nick Tiano and Manny Wilkins as your only 2 options after you lost AJ McCarron last year. So, again, maybe I'm wrong. Some of these guys haven't hit the field. I'm just saying, you look at how the league has all the talented pieces and guys we know are going to make an impact. You got to find someone to break through. This is really best of the best now that we are 3 years into this whole operation. That's going to be a thing Anthony Becht, I know, has on his mind because he's got that. And he also has to figure out his kicking situation and long snapper that he did not pick up in this draft either.
Yeah,
so we have a request. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I was going to ask the same question, Zach. I think the Battlehawks have a strong roster. They put together a great squad over the past couple of weeks, especially that wide receiver room is loaded. But does it really matter if you don't have a quarterback who can throw the ball? I mean, and right now, I don't know what their plan at quarterback is. I mean, maybe McCarron is in backdoor conversations to come back or something like that. But the fact that they've gone through these phases and have not tried to strengthen that position at all, I find a little bit curious.
So we have a request here from our friend Arlington Lane.
Sorry.
Arlington Lane from the what is it? The U Fan Show now? It was the X Fan Show. Now it's the U Fan. See, I don't want to mess it up. But our friends from the Pro Football Alliance. Mels, what's your thought here? I don't want to get yelled at by the chat. We got to let you speak here. Break it down for us. I don't even remember what we're talking about anymore.
Yeah, what's the question?
I had something that I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Actually. So this is perfect.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking here at the leftover players after the draft today, and I just wanted to ask, what are some surprising players, or some players you're surprised did not get picked up today? And I can start you off with Matt Mangle. I was shocked that he didn't get picked up by anybody. He did such a good job, and he's a really there kicker, and the fact that he can kick, he can punt, and he's still sitting there, and so there were some surprising players left on the board. But then going back to that earlier point, you look at some of these teams that they have, like the Panthers, they have a lot of room left to pick and draw from. But yeah, what are some of everyone's takes on players left on the board that you're surprised they'd be left at the end of today?
There's a lot. And I'll open up with a few guys here. Jeff Badette. I don't know how he wasn't picked up. I mean, he was one of the top receivers in the XFL. He's a guy that I thought was going to go in the last draft. So when he didn't get picked up today, very strange to me, especially because I know for a fact, little insider info here, he was in talks with the Michigan Panthers for a while. So I don't know why the Panthers stopped picking after 6 guys and didn't add Badette to their wide receiver room and let him compete in training camp. It really does not make any sense to me. That's a guy that now that we're in free agency or heading into it, I could see him getting picked up. On the other side, defensively, so many guys. Paris Ford from the Generals. He was fantastic this year. DeJuan Hines, another guy from the Generals, who's been excellent the last couple of years. I don't know how these guys weren't picked up. Cam Eccles-Looper, he's another playmaker from a wide receiver standpoint. Like, there's so many guys. This list could go on and on and on. Joshua Simmons from the Maulers. He was all USFL. He's nowhere to be found in either one of these drafts. So it's going to be interesting. The good thing is that there's still a lot of opportunities out there. The CFL exists. There's leagues overseas in Europe like the ELF. We have other up-and-coming leagues. The AFL is coming back. There's a lot of indoor opportunities. But it's interesting to see a lot of really talented guys left off. And like we talked about earlier, Arlington only picked up like 5 guys this draft. They have a ton of openings. They have quite a few signings to make here to get a 75. So maybe we do see them pursue some of these guys. I'm hopeful that they do.
Yeah, if I could add to that, James, Brandon Silvers is a quarterback who I thought surely would get picked up somewhere. He's got a lot of experience in leagues like this. Running back, you might have mentioned this, James, but Reggie Corbin. Where's Reggie Corbin? I understand maybe the Panthers want to move on and they've added some new guys in the backfield, but nobody else wants him. I think tight end Thaddeus Moss, he was kind of buried behind Jay Sternberger on the depth chart last year for Birmingham, but they decided to let him go so he could have an opportunity to go be the guy somewhere else, but nobody picks him up. Defensively, you mentioned some, but I know Terrence Williams, according to PFF, he was the highest graded inside linebacker in the XFL last year. Doesn't get picked up anywhere.
Terrence Plummer?
Or Terrence Plummer, yeah. Sorry. That's why I keep you around, James. And we could keep going on and on and on and on and on, right? Like Cordell Jackson, rookie MVP in the IFL last year. Dude's a stud. He's bought out everywhere he's been. Mm-hmm. Finally gets an opportunity with Orlando, but, that falls through the cracks. So, we could all probably give 20 names, but it is pretty shocking, some of the guys that I never would have thought would be in this spot at this point.
Curious, Zach, Ducky, any thoughts on players you felt missed out?
Nope. DC got their perfect roster for their perfect season.
Brilliant. A+ commentary, man.
I'm a little mad that they got Barnes and Boogie as soon as, I have to ditch my XFL team because, obviously got to go with the local market.
I let them borrow my hoodie, everybody.
Yeah. I was going to say, I actually might have to send this over to you. Give you some DC gear.
It'll probably be too long. It'll probably go down to his toes.
It's going to be a dress.
I need a dress anyways.
He needs something to sleep in, so he dreaming of the defenders, dreaming of Boogie and TJ, clogging up the D line.
Bailey Gaither, though, that would be my guy that I think should be on a team.
Gaither that's a shame right there, honestly. Trey Quinn is another one. I'm kind of wondering if he has another shot somewhere else.
Well,
he's a free agent.
Trey is a free agent, so he'll have a chance to sign back, thankfully.
So he wouldn't have been eligible in today's draft.
That's good.
All in all, this was a fun draft. We got the benefit of getting the picks as they were, sort of as they were released. We had to give the time for the social teams to build those graphics. I know there are some folks waiting on. They're like, well, I thought it was 12 Eastern. Well, they got to make some. Oh, no, sorry, 1 Eastern, right? Keep me honest here. 12 real time. 12 real time. Central Gang, sign me up. There were some folks kind of a little antsy at the beginning, but once they kind of got the rhythm, they were flying fast and furious. I love to see it. We didn't do the show live, but I think that was good. It gives us an opportunity to kind of soak it in, because I remember earlier as everybody was waiting for the picks. That's all I was thinking. I'm glad I'm not live right now, because 20 minutes, 30 minutes of stuff to talk about before we get to the draft could have proved to be difficult. I could talk a lot. I probably would have figured it out. But beyond the draft, we also got contract details. So maybe we jump into that. Before I move on to that, any other thoughts on the draft? Any other notable items anybody wanted to pick up? before we move on to contract details from the USFLPA.
Hey,
Can I
Jake,
bring-
you want to Luke you first? Then I got something.
Oh, I was just going to ask James a question.
Have at it.
James, since you're our resident insider, I know free agency opens up tomorrow, correct?
That is the plan, yes.
Do you have any sort of impression or read on when you expect there to be a lot of free agency moves? We talked about how a lot of these teams still have, 5, 10 roster spots open, but there is like a month till camp kicks off. So are you expecting there to be a flurry of signings this week, or do you think we're going to have to maybe wait a few weeks to kind of for teams to slowly kind of trickle in and let those few spots fill? Or I'd just be curious to hear your thoughts on what we might expect there.
From everything I'm hearing, definitely should be news this week. There's a lot of guys that are free agents that, again, either went to the NFL from the USFL and the XFL, or are guys coming off of practice squad opportunities or just NFL opportunities, guys that have been in contact with these teams for a while. That's why we looked at the strategy that some of these teams took today. Like, again, Rick Mueller and the Arlington Renegades only picking up a few guys, leaving a lot of spots open. We're going to see a lot of free agent signings coming here over the coming weeks, and I'd expect some to happen tomorrow. We may not get news on them tomorrow, depending on how that all shakes out, but definitly some guys
Depends
that are
how
going to be
good
ready
you are,
to sign
James.
with these teams. What was that?
I said, depends how good you are, James.
Yeah, we'll see. But there are definitely going to be news to come, and guys that I have an eye on right now from this past USFL season in particular, like Mark Gilbert. That's a guy that's available. That's a guy that's probably going to be coming back. Another guy who did not sign a future with Washington is Jared Jones-Smith, who was with the Battlehawks. He was all XFL. So that's another guy to keep an eye on. We're going to see these guys signing back pretty quick.
Right on. So Zach, you had one other point on this too, right?
It's kind of a point, but it's also more of a funny, sad look back. Is Jake, the mystery of the Reggie Corbin graphic now deepens in that running back room because they clearly didn't pick him up. So how we feeling, man? Because I'm a little disappointed. Like I know that's of course probably a graphical fumble on that department, but almost made me feel like we should have had him back, and somebody I kind of wanted back, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, all USFL, he's been one of my favorite players, for the last couple of years, but I get the direction that they want to go in. Obviously, we let Stevie walk as well in free agency, so I'm excited with who we picked up. Like, if we didn't get Wes Hills, if we didn't get Colburn, like I think I'd be hurting a little bit, but getting those two great stalwarts the last couple of years, and then getting Raymond Clay and getting Nate McCrary, I'm excited for our running back rooms, so that helps me feel a little less bad about not having Reggie. But yeah, I mean, I certainly wasn't going to complain if we had protected him, but I'm also at the same time not surprised. So kind of when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So I haven't dwelled too much on it, but yeah, it does kind of suck.
On to the next.
On to the next, indeed. So if we have no other topics on the draft, I think we went over it probably as much as we could. Well, we probably could have went over more. There's always more to talk about, but nothing is perfect. Perfect is the enemy of good. Just remember that. Just always remember that. So, everybody's eyes were clearly focused on the UFL Super Draft today. But you know what? That didn't stop the USFLPA from dropping what I would consider a pretty big info dump. Now, some of these things, I don't know what everyone's laughing at, so hopefully it's not me. Maybe it is. Sign me up. But what we got out of this is, a lot of details that have been in the works, some of them that were some new details that had come out of it. But all in all, I think these are all pretty positive moves here. So I'm just going to run through the list real quick, and then we can open it up for discussion. But for the folks that maybe didn't catch it, because today was a big news day, there was a lot of draft coverage, so probably got stuff down way into your timelines. So the active salary now goes from $5,350 to $5,500 a week. A week or a month? I don't know. I'll have to check me on that
It's a
one.
week.
Thank you.
Per week.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Per game week.
Yep. Camp salaries go from $700 to $850 a week. And this is where I think we're getting into merger specific. Well, we are getting into merger specific camp rosters. This is a wallop here, 58 to 75. Now that's only for this year. And clearly that's because of the merger. We're going from 16 teams to 8. They want more players to have an opportunity to make that roster at the end of the season. And like we were talking about, there's guys that we were surprised that didn't get picked up. Just think of how crazy it's going to get when we start seeing the first round of cuts, right? Because there's going to be a lot of names in here that we're like, how did they get cut? But Premier Spring League, again, 16 teams going into 8. You're going to lose some of those top names somewhere in the mix. Now, I could see some of these guys coming in later this season, but we'll get to that later. Bonus structure, player of the week, $1,000, sign you up. That gives you an opportunity. I think Mark Thompson, my guy was talking about this on X earlier about the contract, is being like, hey, you want to make more money? Play good. I like the way he's thinking there because I want him to play good, 12-0, rough him up. You make the all UFL team, 2,500 smackaroos right in your wallet. Player of the year, sign you up for $5K. MVP, you know it's going to be Mark Thompson this year, $7,500 to him. And you know what? $7,500 plus a round on me if it is Mark Thompson, sign you up. But we're also, and this is, I think, one of the bigger notes in here that was kind of buried down. We're seeing the beginning of the UFL severance fund with a $250,000 deposit. Now,
Huge.
You know, there's back and forth on whether people like the unions, don't like the unions. But I think the one thing that at least carries me over to the good side is these things are in place to make sure there's sustainability, not for the leagues, but for the players themselves. We saw it with the AAF. We saw it in 2020 with the XFL. When these things go away, there's usually not a parachute or anything to catch them. And so having, you know, a $250,000 fund kind of at the ready, I feel like that'll go maybe not a long way initially, but as that builds up, that's a good starting point. On the inverse, and this I'm actually surprised by, and I'm curious to get your takes here, player fines are now reduced from $250 to $50 for your first fine. And just to kind of round things out before we open up the discussion, IR players now receive a housing stipend, which is actually surprising that they didn't before, but we're seeing it now. So those are basically all the details. There's a few other things kind of in there, but these are the big nuggets. Anybody want to volunteer to thoughts, good, bad, indifferent, things they could do better, things that you think that we'll expand on, or just overall thoughts on where we're at right now?
Well, I thought Zach should probably go first on this one. He had some interesting comments earlier on Twitter, or X, as we like to call it now.
That's what he wanted.
But Zach, you got them to open up a little bit on the whole competitive play thing and players being able to pursue some other opportunities in the offseason. I think that's something you might want to elaborate on here a little bit.
Yeah, and thank you. I didn't want to feel like I'm taking the first point of every question. That's why I was waiting. But yes, I'll go ahead. But yeah, big thing is you know, a lot of folks, including I know Luke was asking about it online as well, and has been commenting with me on it, is, you know, what's the clause that's changed about the off-season play? Because that was one that's you see in the graphics that they posted. It's NFL only for the last 2 years, and they changed it this year to non-competitive leagues allowed, which some people interpreted maybe that's an anti-NFL thing. Some people interpreted maybe it's an anti-movement thing. Well, actually, it sounds like it kind of opened up the door a pretty big deal for potential other avenues for revenue, is the way it put it. And they described it as follows here: is what they're doing is they are kind of letting you go to certain, essentially arena leagues are more available, international scenes more available. What really isn't allowed in terms of leagues that don't overlap with the season, or at least are not overlapping or competitive, is the CFL gets the hit on this one. So the NFL movement is still clearly there. Any discrepancy on that, no matter what, they're not going to block the NFL. Like, that would be an insane move. It would be anti-football player and it would be anti-football fan right out of the gate. You would basically be entering competition with the NFL, which is a bad idea. But in North America, your main competition is the Canadian Football League. So they basically laid down the hammer there that, well, we got to say everything else is fine. You know, these guys are trying to make their way to the NFL. If there's an avenue that helps that, there you go. The CFL, however, that is our competition that we are going for, that same level. So they're basically saying, hey, Canadian Football League, we're sorry, but we got to put a stop somewhere on this line, and that's the line.
Right on. Mel's, I'm curious. You're close to the Canadian border over there. Do you think? What are your thoughts on them kind of snubbing the CFL? Do you think it's expected? Do you think we'll see changes to that? What are your thoughts here?
I mean, I'll be honest, I very new to the CFL and I'm still learning so much about it. It feels like it's just so much different than any of the American leagues that we've had. You know, one notable thing within the CFL is they only have a certain allotment for Americans on the roster.
Yep.
You know, so that really limits a lot of American players to go over from the get-go. You know, they already have to kind of potentially pick more mid-level players to fit certain like roster dynamics for citizenship than other players that might be better suited for the team simply for the fact that they need global players or they're maxed out on their American players. So, you know, I kind of, you know, those types of limitations, I mean, it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit one-sided and kind of puts the Americans at a little bit of a disadvantage going into the CFL, I think, you know, but so you leave like a lot of really good talent on the table simply for the fact that you have to meet certain roster standards over there. But it's still, you know, I think a good opportunity for people who don't make teams here, you know, and it's, you know, overall you're kind of limited and there's not a whole lot that you can do about it until the CFL changes that, I think.
Right. Any, I don't know, James, what are your thoughts on the contract details, snubbing CFL, which I'll jump in real quick. I'm not even, snubbing CFL is not the right words. It feels like we should have expected that. I don't know if any of the other leagues let them jump to the CFL as well. When the USFL and the XFL were around where they could, they didn't want them jumping between them two either. But sorry, James, go ahead. Thoughts on this whole thing?
So, yeah, I was about to say, like, yeah, it's not snubbing the CFL. It's more of like, obviously they're in competition. They're in competition for talent. And it's very similar to what we saw last year when we had the USFL and the XFL competing. Obviously, there were some instances where some USFL guys went to the XFL and some XFL guys went to the USFL. But generally speaking, the two leagues didn't want the players going to the other leagues because they were competing with each other. Now they're together. Now they're one big, beautiful league, as you would say. So we're in a position where the CFL is really the main target for guys to go to, right? Because now you've got alternative football in Canada, alternative football in the U.S., Something I think is interesting is that now you will get to see some guys play in arena. We've seen it happen before, and I think it's something that's great that's going to continue. It's a way for some guys to get, one, extra film, and two, some extra paychecks. And arena football, it's something it's alive and well right now. You know, we've got a lot of arena leagues. You know, it's something that Zach covers very in depth. So if you guys want arena information, go check out his YouTube channel. Little shout out there for you, Zach. But anyways, the one thing that was interesting from this past USFL season is they had signed a couple of CFL guys that ended up, and same with the XFL, a couple guys that were able to have in their contracts like a way to get a release so they could go back to the CFL. You know, Darnell Sankey is one of those guys. He was with the Arlington Renegades. He won the championship. Then he was able to get released and go to the CFL, and he ended up winning the championship there, which is remarkable. Another guy is Dakota Pruka, who's with the New Jersey Generals. That was a really weird situation, obviously, with their quarterback situation, but he ended up going back to the CFL after the season because he was able to get a release. So stuff like that, I think we could see potentially in some way, shape, or form happen. But yeah, for the most part, obviously, the leagues are competing for talent, so that's kind of how that works.
Right on. Jake, Luke, any thoughts on the contract details, good, bad, and different?
I like it. I like that they continue to make improvement. I do think that today's timing of it was probably a little bit of a shot back at the UFPA, who has been making quite the noise, insulting the USFLPA and their lack of negotiating and supporting the players. So obviously, I think today's post was definitely a knockback at them to kind of going, hey, no, we actually are for the players and doing good work. And from what they posted, I like it. A lot of kind of what we've expected, like the increased roster size, active roster, but nothing I see here that makes me feel like this is a step back. I think it's just a step forward. I'd like to see a little bit more pay, but we'll see. Hopefully, that's 2025 and beyond. But other than that, no complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think of course it's like you always want the salaries to be higher for players, right? So like you wish that they got more of a raise than they did, especially given the fact that we're cutting down from 16 to 8 teams. But there's obviously financial realities that have to be reckoned with, and we get that. I was glad to see that incentives came back. I know the USFL in year 2, when they negotiated the CBA, a lot of the incentives that existed in year 1 for like team bonuses for wins and championship victory and stuff like that, like some of those things went away. And so I was glad to see they brought some of those back, at least at an individual level. I was sitting there doing the numbers when that came out of like money what Alex Magoo had made last year, being the MVP and all USFL and the Player of the Week awards he got, plus them winning the championship and all that. And Alex, if you happen to be listening to this, I hope you're thinking about that before you sign a futures contract with the Packers. But overall, I mean, I think there's steps in the right direction. Obviously, you wish the steps were bigger than they are, but I think they're good steps nonetheless.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know if that was a cat or a child in the background.
The cat has been approving everything the entire show. The chat loves the cat, by the way. So whoever's cat that is,
I'm so sorry. It is Tiny Panther.
Tiny Panther's the mascot, though. It's
Literally
okay.
right here.
That's okay.
Been here the whole time. His little paws underneath this door, desperately trying to get in here.
We had Luke's cat go across the screen too. I mean,
I'm so sorry for Tiny Panther. He just really wants to be part of it, but he's also just like a hurricane, and he would destroy everything I've got going on in here. So
God bless the Tiny Panther for our sake.
We are a cat-friendly show.
Yes, feline friendly. I think always going to be that way. Look, I'll tell you what, just to kind of follow up on these points, because Luke's right, like, and you guys have been right. Like, look, we all want these players to have the best numbers possible that you can get out of CBA deals. Thing is, they're negotiations and they are compromises for a reason. You can't get the best of what you want, and it's to make sure the companies don't get the lowest possible number they get either. I think one thing that is being implied, specifically in towards the UFPA discussion, like Jake brought up, because it is very much still being an active discussion. In fact, the UFPA is trying to decertify the USFLPA right now. That takes 30% of the members to vote in petition to then send that to the National Labor Relations Board, and then that whole thing goes to a vote. So that is not out of the woods. They are currently trying to basically reset the union terms to get their own union. Now, I don't know how long that would take or if that affects this season, if it's like too close to that deadline. But the thing is, I look at these terms and I go, look, we're still building something up. I think this is a great deal for the level of play you're looking at right now. The incentives alone, bringing those back, the housing stipend for rent, which, I mean, $1,600 a rent, that's great for rent and for most normal Americans to get too. And these guys usually share rooms in these leagues we've seen. I mean, I don't know how you complain. Not to mention players. I know the USW is the big financial fund behind it, but Devin Gray and Chris Rowland are being looked at as guys that are leaders actively working on this. And I feel like that discussion where the PA is saying it's the steelworkers union screwing it over. I'm like, well, they're not leading it. It's the players. This is a player-run league that just has USW as an associate to help guide them in terms of how union membership works. They love these guys being involved. So it's a discussion that's going to keep going. I just don't know where this ends or how you get to the point where you see guys on the UFPA side of it where they're missing out on things they feel like they're missing. Because the more I see what the USFLPA is bringing to the table for these guys this year, I don't see where it's a miscommunication at, unless it's just the fact the UFPA is not on the table anymore, which it feels that way to me. Well, they're not at all. And that's, to me, it feels more like it's a sour grapes type of situation the more we do this.
Yep.
As of right now, the UFPA, and again, it's very confusing because we have the USFLPA.
Well, and not to mention, people think they're a union. They're not. The UFPA is not a union. Just want to put that out there. It is an independent group. So anyone that thinks it's a union, you are wrong. It is not certified as a union. Only the USFLPA is an official union that is part of the collective labor unions in America, in North America. That's the only one.
You're absolutely right. And something to point out, too, is that the UFPA did have some association with the USFLPA and helping them set up some things down there in Birmingham. But those connections are long gone. Those ties have been cut a while ago. They're no longer associated with the USW. So for all the confusion that's out there, the USFLPA is the union that you should be paying attention to throughout this process.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is confusing for newcomers because even if I saw that as a non-crazy, for folks that might be new to this show, but if you haven't seen the UFL podcast, thanks to Seth Lessons, we have a name. We're the crazies. We're the ones that day in, day out, we're looking at spring football. We're looking at all the news coming in and out of this. But if we're not a crazy, you're a casual fan. Maybe you saw one of the many UFL promos on Fox during the NFL playoffs this weekend, which sign them up. You love to see it. You went online, you Googled it, and you got to it. That's where you might have a little bit of confusion. But that's why you stay tuned in to profootballnewsroom.com daily and around the UFL. Jeez, I don't know what kind of mistakes and the UFL podcast. Because you know what, we'll try to bring you the best kind of information as it comes through. Try being the key word. Things happen. But that's how it stands now. Any other thoughts on the contract details? We are running to about time here. It's funny how that works. We had a little bit of planning, but we're at about the hour marker right now. Any final thoughts before I give all the details that I should have given at the beginning of the show?
I have another, but I want to see if anyone else does.
I think Tiny Panther had something he wanted to say.
Yes.
Let me
says
in.
Still right
Panther.
here. As soon as I open this door, this cat is coming in. So
The chat says give Tiny Panther 50 points, by the way. So,
hey, something I do want to point out, which I think I did on one of our previous streams too, was obviously this is not an easy time for a lot of players right now. A lot of guys that just all of a sudden don't have a job. A lot of guys that were promised that they would have a roster spot in 2024. And here we are. Again, I'm extremely excited for this upcoming season, but it is unfortunate that we went from 16 to 8 teams. We're leaving a lot of guys on the table that were, again, empty promises there. So hopefully, again, those guys will land somewhere. I'm wishing all those guys the best, but just keep in mind, just the fans that are out there watching, the people that interact on Twitter. Obviously, we interact with a lot of these players pretty often. Just keep that in mind. Just be civil, be considerate of their conditions, and make sure to just keep them in your thoughts. And hopefully we see these guys end up somewhere because there's a lot of talent on the table right now.
And not just players, people behind the scenes too.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say who or what, but there's, with this merger, not everybody's coming across on every side. So, this is one of the unfortunate pieces of this merger. And my hope is that this is the last time that we have to deal with this. This is the merger. This is the spring football league that sticks. And hopefully we get to next year, maybe the year after, maybe year 3, but somewhere in the next few years where we're not an 8-team league. We're a 10-team league. And hopefully further down the line become a 12-team league and open up those opportunities in a more sustainable atmosphere, if you will. That's the hope. I am here for the football. I love spring football. I'm going to watch this season. I'm pretty confident that we're going to be around next season watching this again. And hopefully, maybe when we're here on episode 52, a year down the line, we'll be talking about expansion. Maybe not. We'll see. As long as we're talking about season 2, that's all I'm concerned about right now. Any other thoughts from anyone else here? Zach, you had something?
oh no, I was doing my hand motions. I do not right now.
No worries. Any other thoughts from any folks over here?
Ducky has been awfully quiet. I feel like he has a lot to say.
Just waiting for the season.
Ducky, give the people what they want. Man.
You can't spell Ducky without DC, just so you know.
That's a new. Put that on a
like
shirt.
it.
PFN store.
I like it. So here's what we'll do then. Hey, I probably should have brought this up at the beginning of the show, but you know what? I didn't want to shill too early, but we'll get there. Don't you worry. Here's what I need y'all to do. I need you to head over to x.com, formerly known as Twitter. Go find at Around the UFL, Around the UFL. And you know what? In fact, you can do it on Instagram and Facebook as well. Go ahead. Make sure you're following it. If you're over here on YouTube, which clearly you are, here's what I need you to do. I need you to look below the video, subscribe, click the bell. It builds morale. Is there a player that didn't get picked up and you really want him to be there? Click that bell because, baby, free agency's right around the corner, and that pick might just land on your team. And here's the other thing. Hit the like button. You'd be shocked. It helps more than you think. And you know what? If you don't want to hit the like button, hit the dislike one because it helps just as much. I really don't care. Hit a button.
Man.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, click away because we need the algorithm. We need Susan Wojcicki to throw us up on the trending page. And the only way we're going to get there is with a whole bunch of likes. Before we end out, let's go around the table. Tell everybody where they can find you guys on social media. You guys know you can find me at The Ref Says. Zach, where can they find you?
At Zach Conlon for my personal stuff. But yeah, just going to direct you to at UFL Podcast, by the way, where me and the ref are still going to go strong this season. Basically, these are bookend shows this year. So Monday, you're going to get all of us coming together in one big, beautiful family. And we're going to be doing that, talking about the last week of the league, also some news pieces. And then still, UFL Podcast will guide you into the week starting this season for 2024. But yeah, check out all these items and much more. And of course, anyone else who mentions where they're going to be at after me on this show, because I want everyone on here to get support. All of you guys are wonderful contributors to this show and everything else you do for PFN and your own special items you do, individual projects. Just putting that out there.
Right on. Mr. Larson, where can the people find you?
On Twitter at James Larson PFN or Instagram at James Larson Official. And of course, pfnewsroom.com. Got a lot of articles there and a lot of news coming down. So it's going to be interesting.
Mr. Community Legend, Ducky, the DC man, the XFL super fan. Where can people find you on social media?
At Ducky Disguised, or go underneath any Matty Fresh post and you'll see me there.
Oh, man.
Or just go to his Twitter and you'll see me there because he loves posting about me.
Well, here we go, folks. Mr. Luke Miller, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Luke Miller PFN. That's the only place I am right now.
Right on. Mr. Ball, Jake Ball.
Follow me at UFL Shadow on all the platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X, whatever you want to call it, Threads.
Yeah, I forgot about Threads.
I know. I don't.
We all did.
Threads, but I'm still there. I still get notifications, but I don't check them.
Yeah, I know. I get the notifications. Same thing. I'm swipe. Get out of here. Mel's new face. One, before we get into it, how did you enjoy the first show?
I had fun. It's definitely a learning experience. I'm super excited to keep going in the future, and I can't wait for the season to start for us to talk, games and what happened on the field and players and that sort of thing. So I'm super excited. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I'm glad you could join. And where can they find you on social media?
On Twitter, Mel's PFN, and then shortly on Instagram at Mel's PFN, where you can find Tiny Panther. I will post plenty of Tiny Panther for everyone to see.
Who would have thought that we would have a mascot by the end of the show? But here we are, Tiny Panther. And as a recap on the points, so Ducky, you were in the lead, 2 points. Everybody had 1. But the chat, I have to agree, Tiny Panther is awarded 50 points. So he is the panelist of the week. Now, we have a lot of catching up to do, so hopefully we'll get up to 50 points, one of us, by the end of the season, so the cat isn't taking over the camera the whole time. We'll see. We will see. But I think that's all, folks. Thank you guys for joining for our first episode. Like I said, every Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern, stay tuned. That's why I said it's important. If you subscribe, click the bell. It builds morale, but it also lets you know when we go live with this show, with the UFL podcast, and of course, the biggest party of the spring, Spring Stock 3, taking off March 30th, less than 11 weeks away. Alert, less than 11 weeks away. We're heading to Arlington, Texas for the biggest tailgate party of the spring. More details will be shared in the coming weeks, but you will not want to miss it. But if you can't come to Arlington, we get it. We're also going to be live on YouTube. Hence, why you want to click the bell, get the morale, and see when we're going live. But I think that's it, folks. So until next week, sign you all up. Let's go. Oh, yeah, I got to hit the end stream twice. Well,